know who this is. It's the Chop Shop 205. I'm your boy, Mr. 230. I should have changed my name, but I forgot. But my guys with me. Got Mr. Esquire and Maestro.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
So the topic of this one is called The Crisis of Next. And since I've been forced to open, and this is gonna tell
we
my
voted.
story.
We voted.
We voted. So I'm not a very religious person. I wouldn't even say I'm a spiritual person. I'm just me. I have my relationship with God, and that's how it is. I don't have to explain to nobody, and I don't have to show it to everybody. But for the last few weeks, I would say every morning I wake up and I listen to like 30 minutes of a sermon. Not gonna say who, but I listen 30 minutes of a sermon. And usually I just let the algorithm just pop up with one. I don't pick them. The first one I see, that's the one I pick. And this one particular one came up and it brought up a very interesting outlook or point, the crisis of next. And it made me ask a lot of questions about what's next for me. And not necessarily as in what's the next thing is going to happen, but what's the next thing that I need to be doing to take that next step to get to the next level.
Okay.
So in all that thinking, like I kind of am at a blank space. So I'm gonna go to my guys. I'm gonna swing it to y'all and just explain your crisis of next first. If you have one, everybody's had one.
I mean, first of all, I want to commend you. First of all, I'm not gonna keep my all the way 100. If starting your day with a devotion, that's a good start.
Mm-hmm.
I do that myself, you know what I mean? And I have no shame. I'm putting that all the way out there. Those mornings when I skip it, because I ain't perfect, it's a different type of day. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to you on that tip. Crisis of next. Like, I guess for me, my question would be, like, when we say next, you're talking about like in your life, like what are you gonna do next?
Yeah, not what you're gonna get next, or your next accomplishment, or your next success. Like, what is next? What do you need to be doing next, or what is your next step? You see what I'm saying? Where you need to take it next? What direction you need to take it in?
What? Why do you use crisis? You mean like the urgency of it? Like
urgency of it, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it's because most of us, we want to know what the next step is, because that brings comfort.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody tell you, it's no different than like, okay, if we run it, right, and we say we're gonna run a mile,
right,
and you go, all right, man, we only got a half mile to go. You perk up a little bit because you're looking like, okay, I did a half, I got a half to go.
Right.
If somebody tells you, I mean, a real simple one that everybody can connect to: walk in any office in America on payday or the day before payday. Everybody, the day before payday, yes, sir. And,
what about the day before? Yeah.
And it's like tomorrow's payday. Yes, I got that report for you. I'm ready. So everybody likes to know what's next. Like, that's just human nature. Like, what's next, right?
Mm-hmm.
The crisis of next is when you have to lean on faith or step into a zone that's uncomfortable and go to that next level. And it's a crisis for you because you're leaving everything you know.
I like that. A personal crisis.
It's personal crisis, man. That's the way I see it. Like, and I if you honestly, if you're not going through that, I would say you're stagnant.
I was about to say you have to be aware that you need to be doing more or thinking, at least thinking about what's next for you.
Yeah. Like, everything for me goes in cycles of, I'm a beginner. I start to get comfortable, but I haven't mastered it. So I stay with it because I want to master it. Then once I master it, I sit in it for it. And I'm saying, like, okay, this is what I'm mastering, right? Like, I've mastered whatever it may be. Like I said, it could be cooking, it could be whatever, right? And then eventually you hit a point where even you start, like, in my personal opinion, you should hit a point where you start teaching. You say, okay, I've mastered it. Now I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else. But after you do that, then it's kind of like, well, what's next? Like, what's my next evolution? Because you've mastered that level. I mean, you mastered to the point where you're teaching people.
Yeah, that's definitely mastery level. If you're able to teach, teach well.
Yeah. So now you're like, okay, what am I going to do next? And it's scary because you might fail at what's next.
Yeah.
That's a very real feeling. And we forget that before we became masters at whatever it is we do, we went through a period where we couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
You went through that period. I mean, I'm willing to bet money that at some point, with either thing that you find easy today, there was a time in your life when you were like, man, I don't know how I'm gonna do
it. That's really good. Yeah. That's with everything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real crisis. Now, on a spiritual level, I know for me, it's connecting outside of myself.
Okay.
Like, that's my crisis spiritually right now. I'm very comfortable with my devotion, my worship, my time.
Mm-hmm.
Other people, I don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? I'll give you a good word right quick. I'll be like, yeah, man, God, that's how he works. He doing his thing. But
the Lord told me to tell you.
I don't have that full comfort to sit down and say, okay, now let's discuss it. Let's sharpen each other by going back and forth and really digging into these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my next crises,
Okay. I got a real example. 2 years ago, I bought this Mac computer, and I can do nothing. When you've been on Windows or whatever for so long, like, the computer sat for 4 months before I actually used it because the next thing was I needed to learn that this platform, this will put me in a better place for the future. But for me, that was a crisis. I bought it, I financed it, but then but it was so frustrating because, like you said, it was hard for me. But now I can, after about a year of using it, my brother said, "Oh, it's gonna take 6 months to a year, and you'll be fine." I'm like, 6 months? 6 months? What's wrong? What? So I would literally go and like use the old computer and just like, I couldn't even copy and paste. It was that bad, and I was frustrated because I like being good at what I like to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think nobody likes to be in that learning, that new phase. It's not a fun feeling. It's not fun being the new person on the job where everybody knows everything, or at least you think they know, and you're the odd man out. The second example is I'm 39, and a year I'll be 40. So that could be a crisis of, well, what are you supposed to do next?
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Is it a crisis or is it perceived? Reality versus perception.
So do you feel like, okay, so I'm a big believer in, no, I won't say I'm a big believer, but I used to be a big believer in like signals.
Okay.
You see a big signal. You see signs. So like,
okay.
Let's just say, for instance, you learn a skill, like you said, Courtney. You learn a skill, you master it, you teach it. So after you teach it, what is that next step? Do you learn a new skill? I mean, like, what? So, like, do you believe?
Is
that life will throw you signs to, kind of basically say, hey, get off on exit 104 instead of 106. Because if you get off on 106, you're gonna get lost and you got to backtrack. You see what I'm saying?
Maybe the situation dictates not so much that the skill changes, but the application of the skill.
Oh, that's good.
So, okay, you taught, and I'm just using cooking because, I mean, heck, it's just something on my mind right now. I mean, I could use weightlifting if I wanted, but I'm still on my intermediate.
Right. Do you?
All right, so I start out, right? I teach one person how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
They go off and they start to master it, right? I can't keep trying to teach them. I have to let go of them. Parents do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We have our kids, and eventually you kind of be like, you know what? You're grown, man. I got to let you do your thing. Like, and they go through stages and all the way to adulthood. Everybody on this podcast has been a child.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You had that moment where we were like, I'm good. You gave me everything you could. It's not that they stopped teaching, but the dynamic of the relationship changes, right?
Right.
Now, what I'm saying with application is that maybe you might take on a new apprentice. So now you're teaching another. But even that, I could see an evolution where you might get to the point, and this is where I'm at also, just professionally, I want to train another leader.
Okay.
It's not enough for me to say my team did good. I want somebody to look at my team and say, you know what? That person right there is a leader, and take somebody from my team, which I know is going to cause a hole for my team.
Right.
I know it's going to ultimately put me at a deficit.
Initially. Yeah.
To me, that's the next step, is to pour into somebody enough to where they can be a leader of their own.
That's good.
And maybe even go teach their own. Like, I mean, imagine, and again, I think it's safe to, kind of go spiritual a little bit and use some references.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if Jesus didn't have disciples.
True.
It wouldn't have changed who he is, but it would have changed his message. Without the disciples, we don't get that connection. You could even argue it doesn't spread beyond him. Like, that's something big for me, is thinking about, okay, how do I get it to go past me?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a crisis, because the reality is you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You might pick 500 apprentices, and only one of them really turns out to be that one that fulfills that mission of becoming a master and a teacher. And you don't know what's next. It's a tough thing, man, and it's very personal, because what's happening in that situation is you're having to go out on faith. That's all you got. The crisis are next. All you got is faith.
Yeah, yeah. Faith, research, and that sounds more like, that's like life work. That would be like your life's mission, or one of your life's missions. You have to be dedicated to that work, is what I'm saying. That goes beyond the paycheck, beyond the gratification, and that's selflessness. That's going beyond you. That's good.
Yeah, no, that's and I give y'all example, right? So, me and Mr. 230, we at the gym, and
you say you got to change his name. It might be less than 230.
Yeah, it might be less. It might be 225, man. I don't know.
Like 227.
227. I love it, man. So Mr. 227, right? And he's teaching a class, and I'm in the class, but I've worked out with him, I guess now for years. But and the class was large. Like, it was his large. I think it was the largest class you had up to that point.
Yeah.
And so, we had to break off into two groups just to work on the equipment. It was not enough equipment. So, fast forward, I'm in one group, and I'm showing them how to do a particular exercise. And I caught myself, because I was like, look, lady, I'm not the teacher, so I could be wrong. And he was like, yo, seriously, no, you got it. So I graduated from student to at least master on that level. I'm not saying I became teacher, but I certainly felt a mastery at that point to be like, wow. You know what I mean? He blessed me by saying, no, you got that. Like, keep doing it. I'll be over there in a minute to correct, to teach. But as far as being an example, you're a perfect example. Go with it.
What you do know, you were able to spread. Yeah.
So that was and I mean, was it a crisis? Probably not. I mean, we talking about working out in reality, so it's probably not a crisis per se, but I do see the application. I can absolutely see where, I had this fear about, I don't want to be wrong.
Okay.
And he's like, man, have faith.
Okay. Okay.
You got this. Like, you've put in the work, and that's what should calm you. Even if you don't know what's next, the thing that should calm you is knowing what you've been through. We always talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, man, I look back behind me and I look at everything I've been through. Whatever's next, I'm good. I'm not like, I might get knocked down. Truth be told, I might literally it might knock me down. but I got enough behind me to stand on it.
Right.
I know I know what it feels like to be down. I know what it feels like to come up. So what you scared for real?
Yeah. Being able to push through that. I want to go back a little bit. We said something, and it triggered in my head because I know we got listeners and viewers that's going through. This world is in this shift. It's evolution to the next phase or whatever. Using current skills in new ways. I saw a commercial where they was talking like people like using fossil fuels, like they was gonna close and versus going electric, and they had all these people that like work in mines and stuff on the commercial saying the president gonna take this away and you gonna do us like that. And I'm like, you might have to take those skills, those basic skills, and do something new. There's nothing wrong with that. They try to use a fear tactic in the commercial, and I was like, the world's gonna change. That for them, there was a crisis, so that's how they want to paint it anyway.
Change is always a crisis for people that don't want nothing to change. Especially if you benefit from this is a crisis if you don't want something.
That was tasty.
Yeah. You said that.
That's just for everybody.
Yeah. And that's one approach. And my point is, you can take that same thing. The world is changing from, I'm gonna say, from gas to electric or whatever. How about I go and get certified in the versus me just complaining, like you said, and not changing? Yeah. Why not be proactive? That's just one example. Yeah.
No, that's a good one. I think about like that becomes that, you looked at yourself as a coal miner instead of an energy producer.
Oh, wow.
My job is to produce energy.
Well, geez, that's like a teacher versus an educator. Okay.
So, okay, fine. We changing coal. We going from coal to whatever. That's cool. I'm going to learn it because my job is to provide energy. You still understand the basic concept of providing energy. I think about it a lot with rappers. I don't know. I guess that's, again, I have a self-study, when it comes to just, rappers. And I look at it like, they took that street mentality right into the boardroom and blew the doors off the boardroom. You know what I mean? Because they walked in there, like, hey, and honestly, like I heard an interesting story where a dude was talking about, they were like, man, how you get took for that money, or, you got took for that deal. And he was like, man, I came from a culture where all I had to do is say it. Like on the street, your word is literally like life or death, right? If you said, I'm going to have that at this time, I'm going to be there at that time, I'm going to do this for you, and you don't do it, it can mess around and get you killed, right? So he said he got in the boardroom and he would talk to people and they would come up with stuff. And his mind was still, okay, cool. We said we're going to do that. And then he found out later, like, so y'all just cut me out? And they're like, yeah, we didn't have a contract. And so he said he had to learn, he had to apply that skill of, okay, I know how to negotiate. I know how to come up with ideas. I know how to hustle.
That's good.
But I'm on another level. So I got to apply this thing in a different way. And that was his crisis.
Yeah. That's a great example. He's like that is good. Being able to use it in a new way, in another way. Yeah. Oh, man.
We all kings in our own kingdom, but can you connect with other folks? And I love what you said. I'm actually sitting on what you said. When you said it's always a crisis when you ain't willing to change.
Yeah, like that in and of itself
is so real.
Yeah,
like self-induced crisis, huh?
But that's the other side, right?
Yeah.
The flip side of it is there are people out here who everything's a crisis. And the reality is it's not.
This is true.
Because honestly, and knowing the background and kind of what we came out of this with, if we're being real, you shouldn't have that many crises because that is a faith thing. And faith is not always blind. I hear about blind faith and I respect it. Don't get me wrong. I've had my own moments where I just got to trust the process, right? That's blind faith.
Right.
But faith isn't always blind because sometimes even so I'll give you a piece from some of my devotions where I was actually reading and it hit me in the moment. God is basically telling the Israelites, look, every time I rescue y'all mess around and go right back to that same old bull crap. So he's telling them straight up, like, you know what? I'm gonna let this next group. I'm gonna let. I think it was the Assyrians. He's like, I'm gonna let them crush you. I'm not gonna crush you completely.
Mm-hmm.
And the analogy is like, I'm gonna burn the tree down, but the roots are gonna remain. So the root is the reflection. The root is who you are. But I'm gonna burn it down to the roots so that you can grow back in my image, because you keep messing up. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was their cry. Like, that to me is still a part of faith, because really all they had to do was look back at everything God did. Because every time they strayed, it was based on, well, I can't see what God got next, so I'm gonna go worship this, or I'm gonna go do this, because they couldn't see what was next.
Yeah, and I hear a little bit. There's nothing wrong with research. You talking about faith. There's nothing wrong with educating yourself on things or what's next or things you might be interested in. You don't have to just throw your hands up and say, "Lord, do it," or whatever. You can.
And I hate that.
That ain't what religion. Yeah, that's that modern day Western thinking. Like, it's deeper than that. Yeah.
Look, I'm looking in the camera. I hate it.
Yeah,
don't do it.
It's okay. It's okay to read a book and Google or ask questions or research.
And I could be wrong. I mean, that I'm open to the idea that saying I hate it may not be the best route, but it never makes me feel good in my stomach. You know what I mean?
But I can read a research thing, and that thing I read of that one word can trigger something that pushed me to the to the next place.
Well, it says it clearly, right? Study to show thyself approved. So I mean, research is expected.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and right now we're nationally, as a country, I think we have a crisis in front of us of who we are. Financially, I think there's a crisis happening where the divide between the rich and the poor is getting deeper. As we move into the digital age, where you got people that they just hang out with folks that echo back exactly what they're saying.
Yeah. Right.
Like I tell you something I heard, an analogy I heard that was really cool. When we were growing up, we had to, if we heard a cool song, so we might have heard an Ice Cube song, right? Like, man, that Cube was dope. Can't wait to hear that album. Can't wait till the album drop. We had to wait on the album to drop. And so when the album came out, you know what I'm saying, we would listen to the album, and the song might be like the third of, it might be number 8.
Yeah.
So we're going to listen to 7 songs, right? Now that 7, we might be like, man, 4 of them was good, but 3 of them was trash, but we still got to them, right?
Right.
But then over time, you started to appreciate the other 3 that you didn't like initially. You're like, you know what? That really wasn't that bad.
Right.
Then they go do a video, and you're like, man, that song is jumping. Well, nowadays, man, everything is on demand. So if I want to hear that one song over and over again without ever hearing anything else, I can do it. And it doesn't open my mind to the possibility that there could be other things to enjoy that are outside of what I'm used to.
True.
I mean, you still need to know who you are. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of things I look at. I'm like, I don't need to know no more about it. I'm good right there. You know what I'm saying? But I can at least appreciate the differences. And that's a crisis, I think, that we're going through as a nation, where, we don't have an appreciation for differences anymore. And
I can agree with you on that. We can't agree to disagree, or at least respect the fact that I see it differently than you, and that's okay. Like, that's my biggest pet peeve with the world now. Like, people, and I noticed it back in the day, people didn't want to play middle ground. It was my way or the highway, and like, you just can't work with 2 extremes like that. It's impossible to get anything done like that.
Yeah, and it's just gotten worse to the point where, I mean, it not only is it's either my way or no way. People are now, I think, pushing the boundary of it's my way and you can't have your way.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
I don't care what you want to do over there. You can't do it because it's not what I'm doing.
It's not what I'm doing. It's not what I like. I don't like what you're doing, so you can't do it.
So you can't do it. And that's dangerous, man. It's real dangerous when we come at folks like that and say you can't do something because I don't like it.
And the biggest thing that I've noticed, man, about that situation, period, is the fact that the people who complain the loudest about it, they complain about the same person who is just like them. You just have a completely different point of view, and that's my biggest. That's like I said, like you want to complain about, oh, this person doesn't like gay people. Okay, do you like gay people? If you do, cool. If you don't, cool. Move on. That's your life. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Same thing with races and politics and all that. For my whole life, Republicans and Democrats, it hasn't been an issue. That it has never been a situation where we were rooting on different teams. We voted for who we voted for, and that's who was it. It was never a situation of I'm a Republican and the Democrats are all this, and or I'm a Democrat and the Republicans are all this. Like, when did we get to that point? You know what I'm saying?
And that's what it's about. Like, and that's like I said, that the reason I bring it up is I do believe that's a crisis for our country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have that crisis where we got to really figure out how can we go back to appreciating diversity.
Right.
You know, now some of it is, you know, just a backlash, you know, of a lot of the woke agenda. You know, I mean, and I'm using woke very loosely, you know.
Keep going, keep pushing.
But some of it's just backlash. Like some of it's just finding that balance, right?
Yeah.
Because I remember when it was like, I mean, they would say stuff and I'm going, so I have to like it?
Or do you feel like it's an overcorrection sometimes? I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they go.
Absolutely. And that's a great word, overcorrection. Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we swung, now we swinging back, and eventually we'll find the middle.
Eventually.
Yeah, I hope, I pray, because my issue or the challenge, the crisis is we don't know how to find what's next. I don't know what it looks like. And in this digital age and coming out of quarantines, etc., it's only gotten harder.
Because everybody's looking for what's next.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not looking for what's next, they're trying to be the next big thing.
It's definitely we in a seeking time. Like people are seeking out. They're seeking out love, friendships, finances. It's like it's strong. You know that sometimes when people just cool and they chilling, like it. Everything is everything's volatile. Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, volatile.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
That's a perfect word. Volatile.
Just because it's good today don't mean it's going to be good tomorrow. And it's like instant change. It's not like, oh, well, they're aging or that's going out. No, it's gone.
Yeah.
Man, I saw a video of the January 6th riot. I just kind of watched it like with no real judgment for the first time.
Okay.
And I just thought to myself, I said, this is crazy, though. Like, this happened in my country in my lifetime.
In real time?
In our lifetime, we've seen 9/11.
Yeah.
We've seen a black president.
Yeah.
We've seen the Capitol get stormed by Americans. I mean, that's something you read about in history books early on. You know, you read about it like, oh, yeah, in the 1800s, man, they used to be wilding out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, they burned everything down. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's like, I challenge you to a duel. You know, okay, let's go. You know, like, you know.
Yeah.
But it happened.
It
happened right in front of us.
And you live and work with some of the people that did it. But anyway, yeah.
You know, so that created
they cool. That's the crazy part about it. A lot of them cool.
Yeah.
So they got swept up in the crisis? They
got swept up in the crisis.
For them, the crisis was, I mean, it's a good example, right?
Oh, yeah.
For them, the crisis was they felt their country was changing too much.
Everything gonna change, man.
Yeah. That for them, they couldn't understand what was next.
They definitely did have, yeah.
Me neither.
Yeah, but for them, that was a real crisis. That was a real crisis moment for them.
That was next neither.
But that was one or two people. That was a nice.
So let me ask you this question then. All right, so you don't know what's next,
right?
Who, me?
How you just said I don't know what's next.
No, I'm saying like in the aspect of what you talking about the next direction of this country, do I know where it's going? Hell no. But it's not my problem to worry about.
Why are you comfortable with that?
Why am I comfortable with not knowing the direction of the country?
Yeah.
Because I have to focus on the direction of the Fox household. I can't focus on the direction of America. I can't control what direction America goes in. I can't control how many million people are in America. It's impossible. I remember back when I was young, and I hate to bring this up because people gonna think I'm a hypocrite. But like, so there was this group, First Priority, in middle school. I got in it because really I ain't fit in.
I wasn't.
No, that's the only place I fit in. That's the only place I felt like people didn't judge me. People still judge me, so I didn't care no more. But I went to First Priority, and I remember I was sitting outside during PE one time, and I was just chilling with a group of people, and the leader from the First Priority group said, "Josh, you need to go witness to them. You need to see if you can change their lives." I'm like, I'm in 8th grade. I'm just trying to get along. Like, seriously, I'm not trying to change lives.
Not at 14, 13.
And as that, like, moments in my life stand out. That's one moment that stands out in my life because it put me in a situation where I was like, what? And as I grew older, I realized, like, you cannot change someone's mind. Because the people that they say you can change their minds, they already call them weak. Yeah. You cannot literally you can't make a grown person do something they don't want to do. You can't make a child have time to do something that they don't want to do if they ain't your child. Your best bet is to just live your life in the best way possible, and you be a reflection of what you wish other people could be.
Well, you said something right there.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But it always stood out to me that people really feel like I need to go and make this person believe what I believe because what I believe is right and what they believe is wrong.
That's a miracle.
Sense to me.
That's how cool.
Did it feel like a crisis when you were 8?
Yeah, when I was 8. Okay. Now I'm wrong. It's not a crisis. Okay.
But that was his point of the example.
That was actually
for some of them it felt like a crisis. Oh no,
I couldn't have wrote it better.
My grandkids won't have the America I had. Yeah.
You know, it was a crisis for an 8-year-old in reflection.
No, for an 8th grader, not an 8-year-old.
13, yeah.
For an 8th grader. But looking back, you're like, okay, I get it. And it actually taught you to appreciate diversity.
Yeah.
Because you understood that crisis that you had. You know, and that's something that, you know, it's a process, you know what I mean? And that's what I was talking about with, you know, being able to look back on the things you've been through is, you know, we just need to remember that, like, through these crises that we have of not knowing what's next. Okay, real practical. This is something that I do. When I feel bogged down about what's next and I'm not clear, I actually start thinking about everything I've overcome. And it calms me.
That builds you. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I mean, now as far as my faith goes, you know, it's a twofold walk for me where gratitude is being thankful for everything that you've been through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Faith in what's next. My faith is based on, man, look, I look at everything I've been through. I can see at least 3 times I should be dead. And out of those 3, 2 of them, I mean, like really dead. Like 2 of them, like my fault. I ain't talking about no, like, man, I was driving and I hit some ice and, you know, I could have been killed in a car wreck. No, I'm talking about I put myself in a situation that I should be dead. God didn't want me there. He definitely didn't put me there, but he was with me while I was there. And he allowed me to walk out of it, not necessarily without learning my lesson, because I did learn my lesson, but he let me live. And that's what I meant by burning it down to the roots. Like, all right, you're gonna need to grow again, because that there wasn't what you were supposed to be doing. So
that's good.
That's what, to me, that's what should calm you. You know, part of the 8th grader in you was like, man, I ain't never done that. I think you would do it very well today.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think it would be uncomfortable today if you were asked, heck, you did it with me.
Yeah.
You came over to me and you was like, hey, bro, you serious about working out, or you just like coming to the gym?
It's different though, bro.
You know what I'm
but
saying?
it still was a next
I tell folk, man, when I get in the gym, my brain cut off, and I don't even know who I am half the time when I'm in there.
Because you in your gift, you in your calling. Yeah.
I'm gonna mess with them for real. That's
go
when you
for
take
it.
the mask off.
Oh,
you're completely you.
Oh man,
authentically you. That might need to be a future topic.
You are so you in the gym that it just comes natural. That's not to say you fake by any standard. It's just saying you mastered that. You're teaching, and like I mean, that's your Potter's house. Like that's your like I'm good here. You know, like you know, that's it's like me, man. I'll tell y'all a story straight up, man. I went, okay, law school, cool. By my third year, I'm comfortable. I ain't, I'm wearing t-shirts to class. I'm in the seat like
what up?
Test in 2 weeks. Okay, cool. Graduate. I'm on top of I'm top of the world, basically. Failed my first bar exam. I'm like, damn, man, how'd that happen? Finally passed the bar exam super high. Walk in a courtroom for the first time. And I had a game plan. I spent 3 months working on my game plan. I planned everything down to my cologne.
Okay.
I'm like, man, I'm coming in there smelling like this. I'm wearing this suit. You know what I mean? I'm going to say this. And when I tell y'all, man, when that prosecutor looked at me and he was like, nah, not really. I ain't feeling your deal. Because I called myself offering him a deal. I walked in there like, yo, you know what we ought to do with this? Why don't we do this? And he looked at me and he said, nah, why don't we not? And it hit me in that very moment. I was like, instantly, dude, you haven't mastered this level. I was like, you are below a beginner because even a beginner can say I did it once, which I'm not. I'm a beginner now. But I was like, technically, I had no experience, and I walked in there, and now I look back at it. I'm like, okay, I know what I would change, but for me, it was a crisis. Like I remember I told my client straight up. I said, hey, look, man, do me a favor, man, just go home and like I'll call you because I ain't know what to say to him. Like real talk, I didn't know what to say. I was just like, because he was like, what happened? And it bugged me out because he literally asked me what happened. And I said, nothing today, which I mean, that's the truth. I mean, I just continued it, but this is, but the reality was I was shook in that moment and I didn't know. And it was a crisis for me. I went back to my office and I just started rubbing my head like, yo, man, how am I going? What's next? But then when I calmed down, went back to everything, the failed bar exams, just, getting laid off before in life, all the stuff I've been through, I went through. Like, this part of the process. You don't know until you know. But then when you know, you have the obligation to do better and build on it. So that's where we at right now.
That's good.
So
that's good.
I love it. Final thoughts.
Yeah, I had to put a parenthesis so people know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh man,
that's good. That's good.
Well, I guess I go first. So this is opened up my eyes a lot. This whole conversation. I appreciate y'all, brothers, man, because just like everybody, I go through my crisis next. I'm going through mine right now, trying to find the next step. I won't even say next thing. I say next step. But like this has really opened up my eyes. So I want to say thank y'all. But I mean, everything was in this little bitty 39, 40-minute book. You just pop it in, listen to it while you're on your treadmill, and you can get a lot of jewels in this thing. So, but I'm done. I'm passing it on to my bro.
I mean, you're gonna have crisis. That's just life. I thought about something called crisis management. I'm not in extreme high leadership, or I wish somebody had like some military background of how to literally basically handle crisis. There will be crisis, but you have to know how to embrace them, prepare, recover, keep a level head. Like you said, focus on what really matters. Practical stuff. There's nothing wrong with becoming the next thing. Who wants to be stuck? I think even people that settle don't really want to settle. They just end up settling. I don't want to open the conversation back up, but I'm hearing crisis management. Crisis management.
Love it.
Yeah, I've heard adults are really just really good managers. whether we're managing credit, family, relationships.
Yeah.
It's just we don't live in a perfect world. We don't live in a utopia. There's always going to be something. There's always going to be the next thing. Yeah, next phases, next seasons. Next hashtag next.
I mean, I first of all, I agree with we manage our own lives, and I mean this is just on some man code. If you're over 40 and you're still talking about what somebody else did to influence your life, outside of spiritual, issues and things and mentors, I got an issue with that, man. Take responsibility.
Own it.
Saying you can't do something because of another man,
own it.
That's weak. Yeah. But my final thought is I would hate if somebody heard this podcast and logged off and did not write this down. So I'm gonna say it slowly because he said it earlier. And to me, it's the deepest thing I've heard in a long time. And he said, it's always a crisis when you fear what is next. Take the fear out of it. You can't control it necessarily every step. You take it one step at a time. But that fear, man, that fear adds 5 steps. Because now you got to walk through fear to get to your next step.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just dumb. It's the dumbest. As an adult, it's the dumbest thing in the world. You just added 5 steps to what you got to do because you were scared. Don't do it. It's always a crisis when you fear what is next. That's it.
That's a good way to end the show, yeah. I think it is. Thanks for chopping up. Appreciate that.
Chop shop 205.
Till next